Terror on Mount Shasta in a cold autumn. For friends Sarah, Jack, Emily, and David decided to hike Mount Shasta, a mountain known for its stunning scenery and the mysterious tales surrounding it. They had climbed many mountains before, but none compared to Mount Shasta. Many locals warned them about strange legends associated with the mountain, but they dismissed them as exaggerated folklore. On the first day of the hike, the atmosphere was pleasant. They laughed and joked as they walked through the dense forest. However, the higher they climbed, the more the atmosphere began to change. Thick fog enveloped the mountain, and the cold became more piercing. On the first night, they set up their tents on a narrow plateau. Sarah, who loved reading local legends, told a story about the mountain's guardian spirits that supposedly appeared to hikers. The story made the campfire atmosphere tense. The night wind whispered, singing a song of death that seeped into their bones. That night, Sarah woke up hearing strange whispers outside her tent. The voice seemed to call her name, begging her to come out. Cautiously, she opened the tent and looked outside. The fog was thicker, and in the distance, she saw a faint shadow standing still. Her heart pounded, and she quickly closed the tent, trying to convince herself it was just her imagination. The next morning, Emily complained of a very vivid nightmare. She dreamt about other hikers who got lost and never returned. Jack and David tried to comfort her, saying it was just the effect of the horror stories they had told the night before. However, their worries grew when they found unfamiliar footprints around their campsite that didn't match their own. That day, they continued their hike with a grim mood. Every sound in the forest felt like a threat, and every shadow seemed like watching eyes. At one point, they discovered an abandoned campsite. The scattered belongings and extinguished campfire sent chills down their spines. On the second night, the tension peaked. As they gathered around the campfire, they suddenly heard footsteps approaching. They looked at each other anxiously, preparing for whatever was coming. Suddenly, an old man with a long beard emerged from the darkness. The man introduced himself as Thomas, a hiker who had been living on the mountain for a long time. He warned them to descend immediately because the mountain spirits were restless. Thomas recounted how many hikers had mysteriously disappeared on this mountain. Their spirits still wandered, seeking new hikers to accompany them in eternal solitude. Fear gripped them, but they decided to stay one more night before deciding to descend. That night, Sarah heard the whispers again, this time clearer and more insistent. She tried to ignore them, but eventually, the whispers compelled her to leave the tent. As Sarah walked half asleep towards the forest, her friends woke up and realized she was missing. They quickly searched for her, calling out her name. After hours of searching, they found Sarah standing at the edge of a cliff with her eyes closed, as if someone was directing her to jump. They quickly pulled Sarah back, saving her from the deadly cliff. When Sarah regained consciousness, she recounted the voices calling her. With overwhelming fear, they decided to descend the mountain immediately. The next morning, they rushed down, disregarding the exhaustion and fear that engulfed them. When they reached the foot of the mountain, they swore never to return to Mount Shasta. The legends about the mountain's guardian spirits were not mere empty tales. They realized that the mountain held mysteries better left undiscovered. This story reminds us that nature possesses power and secrets sometimes beyond human understanding. It is always wise to respect and be cautious of places filled with mystery and legends.